This video is in response to one of our readers who made a comment about the dimension tool, having difficulty with it. His initial problem was that he couldn't find the tool, and that would be the case if you were looking for a toolbar button and you only have the Getting Started toolbar displayed, which is the default toolbar when you first open SketchUp. Dimension is not included there. It is, however, available from the Tools menu. Look down Tools, you'll find Dimensions. Or if you switch from the Getting Started to Large Toolbar, Large Tool Set, it's right next to the yellow tape measure tool. Or if you enable the Construction toolbar, it's there. I have it set up on a custom toolbar that I created for this particular SketchUp screen. This is the screen that I always use for my videos, and I wanted a limited tool set for that. So basically just your very basic tools. And so the dimension tool is there. I don't actually, on my normal day-to-day SketchUp screen, I don't have that tool at all because I don't use the dimension tool in SketchUp. I only do dimensions in layout. To enable this large tool set or the construction toolbar, or for that matter to create a custom toolbar, if you're working in Windows, you go to View Toolbars and you'll get this window. And you can select either construction or large tool set. If you use the large tool set, or you create your own toolbars or just bring out all the individual little toolbars, I would suggest getting rid of the Getting Started tool set. There really isn't any point to have screen real estate consumed by multiple copies of various tools. If you want to get rid of them, you can either click on their little red X if they're out on the screen like this, or you can uncheck their little box in this list, which I'm going to do there. So let's take a look at how the toolbar or the tool button works, the dimension tool. Normally, you probably would just select the tool and click one endpoint and then a following endpoint to set a dimension. So you click once, click again, and then you drag the dimension out in the desired direction so that you can read it. You can open a component for editing, and when you use the dimension tool on it, you can end up selecting a line or an edge to dimension and drag out a dimension. However, if there are multiple copies of the component in the model, you wind up with redundant copies of the dimension. There's kind of a neat way around that if you find that it's easier to dimension lines that way. If you open that component that you dimensioned, you can select the dimension, use Edit, Cut, and then close the component to get out of the edit mode and use Edit, Paste in Place. And that puts the dimension only on that one component. Dimensions are also available for circles and arcs. I'm just going to draw a couple of arbitrary arcs out here. And with the dimension tool now, we can get either a diameter or a radius. The precision of the dimension will come from window model info units. The dimension or the length units precision that you have selected here will affect the precision of the dimensions that show. Under model info, we can also go to dimension, and you can change the font, the color. So for example, I could change this to, I don't know, we'll use Tecton Pro, and we'll make it bigger. And now there's no change yet on the screen. I'm going to also, while I'm here, I'm just going to make the color a dark red. If we select all dimensions and then update the selected dimensions, and then if I get the select tool here, you can see that now I've got a larger text in the font that I've chosen and the color. We can also choose the type of arrows that we want. If you want to use open arrows instead of closed arrows, select all the dimensions again and update. And you can see now we've got open arrows, or you can have slashes or dots. You can align the dimension to the dimension line. So if right now they're aligned to the screen, so you can see how the dimensions face the camera as I orbit around. If I again select all the dimensions and update them, and now you can see that the dimensions are aligned with the dimension line, and they can get a little difficult to read when they're at an angle. So it's not the best way if you're using perspective views, for example. You can also center the dimension on the line if you wish. And again, we'll select and update. See those dimensions have moved. There's some expert dimensioning settings. If you want to show radius and diameter prefixes, you can have that turned on. I think that's a default. You can hide the dimensions when they're either foreshortened or when they're too small. I'll turn those on, and I'll show you what happens here. If we foreshorten this, look at this from too much of an angle, you see how the dimensions disappear. Or if we zoom back, also disappear. And you can adjust the size of the amount of foreshortening, or how much they hide when they're not being shown. There's also some interesting setting options in the entity info box, and a lot of people don't find these things, but if I select a dimension or multiple dimensions, I can also choose those same settings here, and I can change the font and the color and all of that stuff right from entity info. And you can modify certain dimensions if you wish. You can also choose where the text position falls. So if I put that, let's say I put that over here on the end, you can see this dimension now, the text is over here on the right end. That was the second end point. We can put it back to centered, or we can put it above, or again outside the dimension. So you have a lot of capabilities as to what those dimensions look like in your drawing. There's still more capability or more options if you use the dimension tool in layout, but if you're using the free version, the only game in town, I guess, for doing these sorts of dimensions. But it gives you an option anyway. So take a look, play with that, get familiar with it, and Happy dimensioning.